Welcome back to Babeinlibrary. It's your girl Lisa, and I know I've been missing in action, so let's talk about my trip to SteamyLit. So if you are not familiar, SteamyLit is a romance convention that is held in Anaheim, California. This year it was held on August 2nd and August 3rd. This convention is like no other because it focuses on diversity within the romance book space. You have a lot of different things that are comprised into this. You have a author signing and meetup. You have panels that you can go to. There is a place for vendors. It has so much that you can do packed into a couple of days. I landed in on Thursday. I met with some friends. I had a great time, but one of the things that I wanted to highlight in this video as compared to last year's video, last year I did a lot of talking. I showed a lot of books. I will have a book haul as well. It should already probably be posted on my channel. But one of the things that I wanted to make time and talk to you all about is getting you the real experience of what it's like to be in the space. So this year I decided to take a page from my friend Avery's ideas, and Avery has done this in a video before when she went to a convention. I decided to interview authors. So I wanted to make sure that I took some time to engage with the authors that would be in this space, see what questions that I had either pertaining to their books, their writing experience, or just the journey that they've had as being an author. And so take a moment to experience SteamyLit Con from an attendee's point of view.
All right, so I have a question. You've been writing for a very long time. What would you like your legacy to be?
Every author of color who has come behind me.
Every author of color that has come behind you. That is a beautiful legacy, and I think you've left the mark. So thank you so very much for all you've done.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Great question.
All right, I'm here with Kenya Bell, and I have a question. Okay. Do you feel like the Love Cousins, so Oz and Nebraska, do you think they're going to get a book, or just the ladies?
They're all getting a book. Nebraska, I mentioned Nicodemus and Darling, and Candy Shop. All the men cousins are also getting a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I do not want it. But do you think Joy is going to get a redemption arc? Or
yes. Joy's in therapy now.
Okay.
And she's getting help, and her story is going to be 2 years later.
Okay.
And so by that time, she's had enough therapy to get herself together. Joy was taking advantage, though.
Okay.
We gotta forgive Joy.
I know.
Like if the male villains can be redeemed,
Joy can be redeemed. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, Candy just may give her a 1-2 pizza, and then she can forgive her.
Candy Shop.
I didn't have it yet, so I have the arc and I hadn't read it yet.
Okay, so when you'll see what they are there. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so very much. I love your book. You're so beautiful. Thank you.
All right, I am here with Danielle Allen, and I am wondering, what is the source material? Because you're in a relationship, I saw you last year, so you're not in the dating scene. How did you do the research on all of these horrific dates?
Before I found my person, I was out there dating, and so every date that Aaliyah goes on is with a man that either I experienced or one of my best friends experienced. And so these are all rooted in true stories.
We appreciate you for slogging through.
I had to suffer, okay? Exactly. And so it worked out in the end. And so, yes.
It's not effortless. I wish it was. It's more so I have to have cleansers routine when I read. So, I do a lot of reading in between, so if I need to prepare for a romance or a fantasy, I'm reading romance to get back into the groove. So, but yeah, I'm starting to get burnt out from it a little bit. So yeah, but yeah, I usually read or I watch a show or something like that.
All right, I am here with Lucy Eden, who has written a lot of romances, and one of the questions, you have a paranormal. Do you prefer bear or wolf? If you had to choose, which one would you choose?
I am going to go out on a limb and tell you I am working on book. If you read Bear With Me, Shelley has a best friend, Dawn. Dawn is in the process of getting her HEA with not one, but 2 lion shifters in Hawaii. So I am going to say lion.
That's a really good answer. And why have one when you have 2? All right, my second question. In Bear With Me, you do axe throwing. He teaches her how to throw an axe. Have you ever went to an axe throwing place? And what was your experience like?
Yes, I did go to an axe throwing place. It was so much fun. The axes are surprisingly sharp. I actually did cut myself, but I had a great time. I always love to learn new things, so that was a really great experience in Kentucky, of all places.
A minotaur whose hooves will scuff your hardwood floor, or a werewolf that sheds their coat twice a year. A husky level of Fermageddon. All right, raise your hand for the minotaur. Oh, okay. I'm missing it. I heard that. Raise your hand for werewolf. Oh, werewolf. All right. Would someone on the werewolf team like to justify their Come on up here.
All right, so I'm here with Elizabeth Stevens, one of my favorites. I've got 2 questions for you. One, do you hate Freya? Like, are we going to free her? Like, how long before we get her book? Like, I love her, but she is going through hell and high water to save people, and she doesn't even like people.
Yeah, Freya, well, I hate to break it to you, but Freya's situation is going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. Yeah, so we have Noon's book coming up in book 3, and then Freya's book 4. And the 5th Omega, who we haven't met yet, is book 5.
That's okay. So I definitely am so excited to meet Noon, and knowing that Freya is coming after her, I've got hope. My next question to you would be, how do you craft these worlds and the language in your Taken series? Because this is unlike anything that anyone is doing that I see. So how do you craft it, and how do you make sure that it connects with your readers?
I really appreciate that, but I am like a language nut, like a huge language nerd. So I have studied like 7 languages, like in actual like coursework, and successfully speak 3, borderline 4, one of which is Arabic, and I find just like language construction to be incredibly fascinating, and a lot of the words are just completely made up, but you know they're coming from like some of the languages that I've studied in the past. And I also think that like grammatical structure, anyways, okay, I'm gonna nerd out about this, but like I think that like the way that language is constructed and the way that people say things tells so much about their cultures in general. Like in Arabic, one of my favorite phrases is fil mishmish, which is like what a woman would say to a man on the street if she was just like trying to dismiss him and he was catcalling, but it actually literally means inside of the apricot and means in your dreams. It's just like such a lyrical and flowery language. Anyways, I digress. I think that it's really fun to insert some of that into the books that I write, and I'm glad that it comes through.
Thank you so very much for the question. All right. So I'm here with Ebony Liddell. I have a question because everyone I know loves this book. Okay. So I've got 2 questions. How is it that you wrote Prince and us adults are falling in love with the YA character? Like, it is shameful how much we love this young man. I want to go on a library. I want someone to close the bookstore for me and us to go there. So how was it that you were able to write a fictional YA character that adults love and that young adults love as well?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know, girl. So the interesting thing is everything is centered around Danielle. People don't realize that. Like, I know Prince is the prince. He's the everything. But I really wrote a character that had to woo her. And I think it's so important because she was cynical, because she was nervous about love, because she wasn't trusting. Like, I needed a guy to be all the things and more. You know, like all the things she didn't even realize she needed until she got it. And so I had to literally, what I did was I chose some of the best, like, I would say attributes of like all the men that I love in my life. And sort of put them into this character. So like Prince is sort of a love letter to all the men that I love as well. And starting with my father, who grew up in Detroit and was always a hopeless romantic, you know, so like incorporating those things, it was so much fun because it was my way of honoring, you know what I mean? Like Black love, Black men, and like what they brought to my life from the moment I was little to an adult. But yeah, that was really it. And like, I honestly, like, with some of those dates, it was like, what are the things that I know teenage Ebony would be like very shy about, wouldn't necessarily like want to do unless a man came by and swooped in and like gave me all those things. And he became this person. I did not expect as many people to like go as hard for him as they did, but it also just shows like our standards, what we're looking for, because I look at it like, Danny deserves the world, and I think it's just a testament to like Black women deserve the world, and we deserve our prince to come in and sweep us off our feet. And so I'm just happy that like everybody vibed with him. I had so much fun writing him.
Yes, because when he was taking down her hair, I said, yes, King, show him. So thank you so very much for writing such a beautiful romance that goes across age range and genres. Thank you so much. All right, I am here with Ashley Heron Blake, and I've recently read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. So I have a question related to your side characters.
All right.
How do you write the side characters? How do you balance giving people like Meredith and Astrid Mother such a presence that we have to some degree, visual reaction, or we support them, and they don't have much time on page, right? So how do you find yourself giving just enough so that way we can evoke some sort of emotion and understand the context without focusing on them in the story?
That's a great question. So I think the way I do that is that any character that I create that I'm going to put on a page is going to have some kind of story. Like, even though I'm not featuring Meredith, the story isn't about her. It's not about Isabel Parker Green. Or whoever it might be, I give them a history. I think about what makes them tick, why are they acting the way that they're acting. And that just helps me understand even how they speak to people, how they dress, their mannerisms, and that just really makes them come to life, because I think the side characters are, a big part of the novel. So, yeah, I love creating them like that.
All right, thank you. And then I haven't read Iris's book, so if you were to sell me like you sold me on Astrid,
okay,
what would you tell me about reading Iris's book that would get me to continue?
Okay. Well, it's a chaos demon who fakes dates. Sorry. So everybody loves a chaos demon, right? Sex lessons. Not really sex lessons. It's more like romance lessons and like swag lessons.
All right.
That like turn into something a bit more. And then there's anxiety rap in Iris. So you got some of that going.
Perfect.
Trying to remember what else happens.
That's okay. Yeah. That's perfect. That's good enough.
Yeah.
That was just what I needed to get me to that next part.
Yeah, Iris is a lot of fun, so I think you'll enjoy her.
Definitely. Yeah. Throughout the books, she's been like the legitimate life of the party.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone personally is going to tap Delilah. Like, she is my favorite character, and I hope she has a part to play in Iris's book as well.
She does, yes.
Thank you so much. Okay. I am here with Jamie Wesley, and I've just read Fake It Till You Bake It. So I've got two questions for you.
Okay.
First question is, will we get more in the books? Will we get a little bit more of the grandma? Because I absolutely love her spirit, and I'm hoping that she goes through and is continuing in the series, or is that it for her?
That's a good question. I didn't have any plans to continue her through the series, but obviously I have 2 more books, so I have some room to play if I did want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3rd book is not done yet, so yeah.
Okay, perfect. And as we are at the precipice, we're ready and waiting for Sloan and August's book, right? Like, we are so aching for that, because August has, like, he's silent, he's mysterious, he has a lot going on. What could you tell us about the book that would entice readers to move on to the next one?
Okay, that's a very good question. I'll say, August and Sloan have some history, and so we do explore that in the 2nd book, and they let's see. I'm like, how do I answer this without giving things away? And obviously, they're not done with each other, so I think yes, he is the strong silent type, but there's a point, and it's actually at the beginning of the book, where he reaches his breaking point, and you really get to see his true personality and what he believes in, and we love him for it.
All right, we are so excited. So thank you so very much for doing this interview, and I can't wait to November so that I can read the next book. All right, wonderful. I am here with Cericia. So she did the Love Con, which I absolutely love. Two questions. One, do you actually cosplay, or do you just love the idea?
Well, I own 10 courses, if that's a good answer. But yes, I love playing dress up since I was a kid. So I don't do specific characters, but I've been a pirate witch. I've done Renaissance fairs dressing up. So yes, I love it to death.
All right, wonderful. And if you could tell someone how to write authentically, right? Because your books are truly one that people can see themselves in, right? Plus size character. If you have an option for people that are into Comic Cons and cosplaying, how would you tell people to explore that passion and put it in writing and just do it, just going for it?
That's basically it. Just do it. Whatever you love, if you love it enough, that's your fandom. That's what you nerd out about. That's what you geek out about. So put that in your story. I love cosplay. I love being nerdy. I love watching cartoons. I'm gonna be 80 and watching cartoons, gumming on my Fruit Loops. So yes, just write what you love, and that magic of loving that will come across on the page for real.
All right. Another question. I think that the book had Marvel characters, but if you had to choose DC or would you choose Marvel?
Well, I like some DC stuff. I'm a Marvel girl. Yeah, Justice League growing up, the cartoon growing up, I loved that. I was all into it. Wonder Twins was my jam. So, but as a grown up now, yeah, I've got to say that I'm Marvel. So,
all right.
I know that disappoints some people. I'm sorry, but I'm a Gemini, so I like both of them, actually.
There's room for everyone. Let me tell you. I love Batman. I love Iron Man. And I mean, apparently I love billionaire men that have
there's nothing wrong with that.
Morals. So thank you so very much.
3-minute thing, yeah.
So okay, with Pharaoh Sean, I have two questions for you. One, friendship is a big part of your books. Why is it important to you to show female friendships?
It's important to me because my female friendships are like the biggest things in my life. I have several different female friendships, but it all started with my sister and my cousins. They were always my first friends. So I always incorporate that into my stories because I don't know what I would do without my female friends.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for showing that. That is an important dynamic for Black women and women alike.
Yes.
My second question is for parting your Frenchie. Tell me what's your favorite pun that you use. You have so many hilarious puns.
I know.
Buckingham Palace. What is your favorite pun?
My favorite pun actually is the title, because when I turned the book in to my publisher, I turned it in under that title, and I thought that it was just a joke for me. I never expected them to keep that title.
Yeah!
And they did. They loved it, and everyone else seems to love it too. So that is absolutely my favorite pun.
Thank you so very much. All right, so I'm here with Maya Ariel. My question to you is, how did you balance or stop yourself from writing Minnie and Nathan's story? Because that's the story that I absolutely like. Their story, their love story, is something that I was like, where the rest of it? I need them to have a short story. How did you balance not giving too much into a side character story and focusing on the main characters?
I think, who's to say that Minnie and Nathan won't have one day their full story told? But I do think that because ultimately, not a spoiler if you've read the book, spoiler if you haven't read the book, although there is an author's note, so it shouldn't be a spoiler, their story ends somewhat in a bit of a tragedy. And this was a romance, and I wanted to fully give myself into the romance of Danny and Kalia, and that was sort of the headspace I was in. And so I wanted to tell that kind of story. And Nathan and Minnie have a different kind of love story, and their journey is just as important, but it just wasn't the central one for When I Think of You. So one day I think we'll get there, but I don't think it was time for their story to be told in full just yet.
All right, and then I have a second question. So the assistant that actually gets the job before Kalia, right?
Yeah.
How did you make the decision not to make her the bad guy, but rather make her an ally?
Yeah, that was an easy decision to me because I wanted there to be a cast of characters in this book that conformed and also subverted stereotypes. So Bella, a lot of people have said that she pleasantly surprised them, because she comes from the silver spoon background. She has this privilege, but she also is not afraid to check her privilege. She can use it for good. She becomes an unlikely ally, an unlikely friend to Kalia. And even though she does find herself in this position that she didn't really earn, she understands that and she acknowledges it. And it is the reality of the situation. And that is just the way that the world works. And so I thought it would be the easy route to make her the villain, as opposed to someone that Kalia just has to get used to working next to, and ultimately decides and finds out that she actually is on my side. And so I think that is what the real world can look like sometimes if we open ourselves up to kind of getting to know each other. And so I wanted there to be some people who are actual villains in the book. Cough, cough, Celine. And then there's some people that you might think are villains, but if you get to know them, they aren't so much. So,
all right, I am here with Miss Therese Clark. So I have a couple questions. One, is there? Tell me if I'm wrong or not. If I'm jumping conclusion, is there something between Layla and Logan? Is there something brewing there, or I'm hoping?
Layla and Logan know each other from past experiences that were not romantic, but there could be. But she would be his second choice. So
okay,
yeah,
second choice.
His book is coming up, and you actually find out more about what he's into come fingertips.
Okay,
yes.
All right. Next question.
Yes.
So thinking about Heartbeat, which was like I think that it started it off. It's a romantic suspense.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you write to where you knew this was a closing story for them? Like so Maya went through hell and high water.
Yes.
And her man was with her every step of the way.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point where you like, enough is enough? They have gone through, they have done literally everything I think that they deserve. How did you make that determination for the characters of what they had to go through to be together?
Right. So I don't write linear, like beginning, middle, and end. I write in scenes. And so I had all of the scenes, and I kind of put it together puzzle-like. And I ended up, so when I finished the first round, it was 200,000 words. So I actually gave them more shit. And then I realized, it's almost like dancing. You get into a rhythm, and then when you feel like it's time to shift, you get that plot twist. And it felt like once we got to where we got to on the side of that mountain,
and then we're all going over the cliff.
We are all going over the cliff. Once we all went there, I was like, okay,
it's enough.
That's enough. I think we're good. I think they've earned it, So yeah.
And being that Fingertip just came out, what do we have to look forward to with Celine's book?
Well, we see a lot. We see the side of Celine that no one gets to see. Celine is very buttoned up, very formal, almost like Xavier and Chaser. And you see Celine come out of her shell, come back to being who she was, and you understand why she was so closed off. There's a side of Celine that is really unexpected and really naughty, and so that's exciting. And then there's a side of Celine that Celine is the one you want to call when shit goes down. She will handle it. And so we get to see that a lot in this.
Absolutely. When she came, they asked the right question. If you don't have friends like Celine, you're missing out.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing, and they're amazing together.
Yeah.
They really have a sisterhood.
Yes.
That I think it's like a subset love story, is that love within that sisterhood. So yeah.
All right, thank you so very much. I'm here with Tanvier, and I have read Elegance Today, which is a literally comedic gold. Like 5 stars, absolutely 5 stars. question to you is, what was the scene that made you, as the writer, laugh out loud? Like you knew this was going to land perfectly for you.
Oh my gosh! In that book, I would say when Morgan, the best friend of the female main character, catches her best friend in bed with her younger brother, and there's dildos tossed around. I don't know where that came from in my mind, but somebody got a fake dick thrown on their forehead.
That was the one for me as well. That was the one I cackled so loud that my dog was like, "Are you okay?" Like, okay. And then, so what was your favorite or most challenging scene to write?
My favorite scene was the kitchen counter scene, because in the state of Virginia, penetrative smegs, we'll keep it cute, is technically adultery, even if you're separated, and even if your no good cheating husband who you're trying to leave already did it first. So that scene sort of like tested the boundaries. The most challenging scenes for me were definitely when they had to split apart, where if you read, you know why. Because I love them together. But everything has a happily ever after, but that was challenging.
Okay, and I'm just gonna put this on camera. If everyone doesn't know, Julian is my man. I love him, and I'm a fight for him. If somebody wants to, if her ex-husband wants to come back and sing, he can meet me outside. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So I'm here with Nikki, who has 2 fantastic books and also a podcast and everything else. So if y'all don't know who she is, get it together because she's writing for us. And I have a question for you. Like, so what I've noticed is in both books, the characters have preconceived notions on stereotypes, and that is the way in which they go about meeting each other. Mm-hmm. Is that a formula for you that we can see going forward? Ooh. And I love how you did the communication of them doing the breaking the myth. So tell me, is that something that we can look forward to seeing more in your books?
Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for asking this question. What you're saying right in those books are my roots as a cultural anthropologist, where people come to the table, they come to relationships, to interactions with a backpack full of preconceived notions about people, about how people interact, about how people think. And as much as you try not to do it, as much as you try to like wash it away, I wanted these people to live in a world where they're in a bad neighborhood, someone's trying to sneak in through the back door, they're going to think they're a hoodlum, right? And like, they don't automatically immediately think the best things of people when they meet them. And the thing about our culture is that a lot of that is ingrained, but what I love about my characters is that they unlearn. They see who these people are as individuals, and then they come to love them. And I think that's how we do for anyone, no matter what the race is. You meet someone, and they can look just like you, and you can have your preconceived notion because of where they grew up, where they live, how they do everything. And we do that automatically, and part of learning to love is letting our guard down and letting ourselves be known for who we actually are.
All right, wonderful, Nikki. And then my next question, the final question for you. You said that you're writing Jane Austen, but for Black and brown people. What are we looking forward to next? Like, why Jane Austen? Why was she the person that you wanted to break down and make it so that we see ourselves?
Okay, this is a great question. Jane Austen, to me, is one of these writers. When we were all in 9th grade, right, the English departments of the universe decided these are the books that are important for us to read. Shakespeare, Jane Austen. And some of that is like so outside of our control. And so there are certain stories and ideas that are like canonical, that hold these like foundational spaces in our heads, like whether we want them to or not. I mean, as an anthropologist, I would love if we read more, African folktales and Anansi the Spider and those types of things. But the types of stories that we get told are like foundational. Like that work has already been done. And so oftentimes what you're also told when you're learning those foundational texts is that these are white spaces, right? And that does psychological work when you're in 9th grade and you're learning about who is important and why they're important and why you read them. And they're ultimately, consistently, aggressively white.
right? So it does a little work there. And so thinking about those foundational texts and saying, hey, let's make it native, let's make it black, you know what I mean? Is that you still get to slide in, do this Trojan horse, story. People will say, oh, I'm familiar with Jane Austen. Yes, of course. And then they open it up. Bye, gotcha, damn it. Black story. So that's always been something I'm really passionate about. Challenging those things that we see as foundational, challenging those things that we think is taken for granted, and trying something new with them.
All right, thank you so very much, Nikki. Okay, so I am here with Denise Williams, and she has a wider range array. Like for me, I resonate with RJ the most. Like she and I completely relate. Who do you see yourself in your characters?
RJ for me has a lot of me in her. She's a strong woman. She is sort of unapologetically a badass, which I think I'm striving to be. But Britta in The Fastest Way to Fall is really on a journey of figuring out how to love herself and that she loves herself. And so many of her stories are my stories too. So I think those are probably the two that I most relate to. But really, there's a little bit of me in all my heroines. But for those, probably those two.
So to be fair, no one can top Britta and Wes. Like their stories, I was like, you're running up the flight of steps. I love them. So
okay, I think my new one might give Wes a run for his money. I don't know, but maybe.
Don't tell me what's a good time now.
I'm just saying it's out in March, and I think it has a lot of the similar vibes, but not about fitness.
Okay, if you could give me a little teaser, what would you say that we're gonna fall in love with him? Like, what is the thing that you feel like this is where everyone, Wes is going to be placed at second tier? Why would you say?
Okay, here's a couple things. It's fake dating. Kieran is the hero. He left medical school to take care of his family's bakery. He is really figuring out what it means to advocate for himself and to do what he needs to do instead of taking care of others. Sybil has felt like she's always the disaster of her family, and she is trying to figure out what that means for herself. And he actually helps her to realize what is wonderful about how she sees the world versus what makes it a disaster.
All right.
Wonderful. And there's a lottery winner, and there's sex in a donut shop. So
sold. Absolutely sold. You all heard it first. Fall in love with first our luck.
Just our luck.
Just our luck. And thank you so very much.
Thanks so much.
All right. I am here with Rebecca Weatherspoon, and she has some amazing books. Now, I follow you on social media, and I hear that are you taking a break from adult romance, or tell me how was the transition from adult, super adult, let's say that, into the YA space. First, how was that?
It was very interesting. Mostly I wanted to write books that 16-year-old me wishes I had. So that was the motivation. Very easy transition. I was only worried because I wanted to make sure I didn't accidentally make my YA books too spicy. Because I can make a kiss spicy. So we had to keep it nice and tame. But we're not abandoning adult. We're going to do a little bit of young adult, a little bit adult, and just kind of go back and forth.
Perfect. That lets us know, because some of us are like, I love YA too, but I still want my adult fun.
We are sticking with both. Don't worry.
All right, perfect. And then if you could say, you have a couple more books in Following Megan, right? So that series is still going. Is there anything else, now that you've gotten Cowboy, is there anything else that you want to do? What else? You're good at switching genres. You're good at switching areas. What else would you like to do?
We're going to go back to paranormal. Yes. We got to do vampires and werewolves a little bit more.
Let's do it. Thank you so very much,
Absolutely.
Rebecca. Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, AH. Now, as I'm reading, I see that a lot of your characters come from a lot of backgrounds, so it's not just one thing. What do you think is the importance of showing up authentically as your full self and bringing all of that to page?
So I feel like a lot of the times, we as a community, as a Black community, forget all the ways that we're alike more than we're different, right? Especially in this day and age where it's very easy to polarize ourselves, just kind of separate ourselves. I think when we all dig, we realize that we're just very similar in so many beautiful ways, in our culture. So I've always wanted to do that with the Black diaspora and write our love stories that way. which is why you'll see that a lot of my characters are, if they're not like Caribbean, they're Afro Latino, they're Black American. Like it's just this mix of like just beautiful blackness.
Yes. And then my second question, I saw you post the other day that it was National BDSM Day. Your books take everything to another level. Why do you feel that you want to tell that story, that it's important to do it with care and but also freedom to be able to explore?
Yes, I think that I'm not the first one to depict like what the lifestyle looks on the side of like a Black person, but I think we don't have enough stories that show that and that show it with respect. There's a lot of research that I've done for my books, and the one commonality that I found in like people that are in the lifestyle that are Black is that they do it with so much respect and like care, and there is something tied into our history that requires a little bit more kind of subtlety that sometimes we kind of lose in other stories that are not ours. So I just wanted to be part of, the authors that are telling that story. At the end of the day, we're still storytellers, but we're also kind of like marking our place in history. And I want to show how, as a Black community, we were kind of, at this point in time, leaving some of those taboos behind and finding ourselves in joy and in sexuality.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. I am here with Mia, and she has a ton of books here for you today, but I want to talk to you about the friendship contract. Please tell me how you went about writing the character's breakup scene from her ex, right? So there's some things that happen, and if I were her, I'd be in that closet crying. Tell me the process of making your characters go through something, but still finding love, and what was that writing experience like?
The writing experience for the breakup for Allegra and Damon, it was kind of emotional, but I knew that their relationship was built on a really deep friendship, and she's kind of used to this breakup situation because she's a hopeless romantic. So she's been in and out of love, and she was just very happy to have her rock to lean on. So Damon picked her up. She was hoping it was going to be Leah, but Leah didn't show up because Damon wanted to be there, and Leah called him out for it. But I think that the process for writing that was humanizing them and letting us see the softer side of both characters. And that was really the key. And plus, when your best friend is super hot, he is fine as hell. This man is beautiful, and she kind of felt something before but never wanted to risk the friendship. But at some point, when you lay next to him and he's gorgeous and beautiful, there's nothing you can do.
And he was actually, I was like, I need a best friend just like that. Like, it's hard.
Yes, still lives rent free in my head.
I understand. Now, tell us about your Vineyard series. If you could describe it for selling it to us, right? Because now we're 3 books in, or we're just about to be 3 books in.
About to be 3 books in.
Tell me about that series and what, inspired you. While you're in California, have you taken part in any wine vineyards or anything?
Okay, so this is going to be funny because I'm like the cheapest drunk around. I can handle a glass of wine. By the time I get to 1.5, maybe 2, it's over for me. It's lights out. I'm ready to sleep. Okay, so the research on this was mostly based on my family. And I'll enjoy a nice glass of Riesling or Moscato, because that's about all I can handle. But this was mostly about Black family, biological or found, and how we come together to heal and have joy. That's the crux of this whole situation. Even if you just start the series out, you'll notice she's got a really strong friendship circle, and that's important for her. They knew better than her that she needed people to lean on, that she needed somebody to lift her up because she's a workaholic trying to prove herself. And as Black women, we sometimes get caught up in being strong, and they're like, you don't have to be with us. And that's the beauty of that part. And now for him, he comes from a strong family, and those roots are even stronger there. So bringing those 2 things together, we just get the sister circle and the Portamani family, and it's going to continue through the whole series. Even through vacation flings, through weddings, and there's some serious stuff that happens in book 3 that I can't really tell you about. You don't get no sneak peek, but it's really deep, and even my dedication to that book, you might feel emotional. So
if you all know me, you all know I love family-centered books. I love girl and sisterhoods and friendships, and bring on the tears. So if you guys are checking it out, check out Mia's books. And if you are not, you will see her at
Black Romance Book Fest.
All right, see you there. So I am here with Natalie Kanya, and she writes in the Vega family romance. And so I just read a dish that served hot. I've got two questions. Yeah. One, since we're getting a Vega family, is Papa Vega going to be in all of the books? Because I love and adore him. He needs to be protected and cherished at all costs.
Abuelo Papo is definitely safe, and in book 3, he actually gets a girlfriend. So trust and believe that Papo is gonna be a-okay.
All right, love to hear that. My second question is, really, in this last book, we were taught a lot of history, right? We talked about Lolita, we talked about the Ponce de Massacre. Like, there's a lot that we learned. How did you balance figuring out what you needed to place in for educational purposes, also making the culture enrichment, but also balancing it with the humor and the love? So tell me about that writing experience of how you measure what needs to be added.
Yeah. For me, like, writing book 2 kind of happened at like one of the darkest times in my life. My abuela, who was like my second mom, had passed away, and I was dealing with like just a lot of dark emotions. And I knew that I needed something a little bit lighter to bring it about, and bring myself out of it. And so, you know, I wanted to tackle some hard things in that book because I was dealing with some hard things. But, you know, in life, it's like you laugh so you don't cry.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's kind of what I do in my books. I want to have those hard conversations, but I also don't want to be like on my soapbox talking down to people. I want it to be where I'm not going to preach at you, but if you think about some things later and you continue to think about them, that's my goal.
Absolutely. You did exactly that in your book, and I absolutely love it. If you guys haven't read it, it's a 5-star book. Please go check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.